right, so last week we talked about solving radicals by changing them into rational exponents. All right, today we're just going to focus on simplifying. So making these in a simplified form. So the way I do this, so we know typically square root of 16 is 4. Why is that? Because 16 is 4 times 4. So if we have a square root, what we're looking for is pairs. So remember, the number inside that radical is our index. So whatever the index is telling us how many of each we need in order to be able to pull it outside of the radical. So remember, when there's no number, it's always going to be 2, just because it's a square root. All right, so how we do this is we're going to break these down into factor trees. So 20, I know 20 is 2 times 10. I know 10 is 2 times 5. All right, so we broke this down. I have a pair of 2's. So I have 2 2's, which means I'm going to pull that pair out front. So just one of them. Inside, I'm left with this 5. It doesn't have a pair. That's going to stay inside that radical. Now b cubed is b times b times b. Well, I have one pair of b's that I can pull out and one that's going to be left inside. So this is my simplified form. All right, I know on the next one, I know the square root of 36 is 6, because it's 6 times 6. I don't need to break that down any farther. I've got a pair. P squared is p times p. There's another pair. There's nothing left inside that radical. All right, what if my index is not 2? All right, it's the same process, but this time we're looking for groups of 4. So 32 breaks down to 2 times 16. 16 is 2 times 8. 8 is 2 times 4. 4 is 2 times 2. So I'm looking for a group of 4. So I've got one group of 4 2's. So 2 goes on the outside. I'm still left with this 2 on the inside. It doesn't have a group, so it's going to stay on the inside. X to the 6. Well, I can say 6 times minus 4. I've got 2 x's left. And I've got one group of 4. So I'm going to take one group out. One group of x's is going to go on the outside. All right, same thing for third root, only notice this one is negative. And because the index on this radical is odd, I can have a negative number on the inside. So what this means, I'm going to break it down just like if it were positive. So 2 times 12, 12 is 2 times 6, 6 is 2 times 3. All right, I've got my group of 3. I'm also going to take that negative out with it. So I'm going to say I've got a negative 2 out front. I've got a 3 left on the inside. I don't have any groups of 3 on my x's. So the x squared is going to stay on the inside. So that is my simplified form. All right, next one. Now my numbers are getting bigger. I've got more than one variable. We're doing the same process. On number 5, our index is 2. Now 343, you have to find factors, and it turns out 343 is divisible by 7 and 49. 49 also breaks down to 7 times 7. Well, I've got just one pair of 7's. I've got a 7 left on the inside. I have a pair of m's, and I actually have 2 pairs of n's. So that's going to go like that. Rewrite that better. And I'm just left with a 7 on the inside. All right, number 7, again, we're looking at a cubed root. Okay, so we're looking for groups of 3. Well, I've got one group of 3 2's. So I'm going to bring that to the outside of the radical. I've got 5 left on the inside. I've got one group of 3 u's. So I'm going to bring one group out. There's nothing left over. 3 minus 3 is 0, so there's none left over. I've got one group of 3 v's, and I've got one v left over. So 4 minus 3 is 1. It means I've got one group of 3 with 1 left over. All right, we're going to skip down to number 9. All right, notice in this one, I already have a number on the outside. Okay, for right now, I'm just going to ignore it, and we'll bring it back later. All right, 875 has to be divisible by 5. This ends up being 5 times 175, which ends up being 5 times 35, which ends up being 5 times 7. Okay, for some of these, if you're not sure where to start, this one's obviously divisible by 5. Look at number 10, that's obviously divisible by 2. The 343 are back on number 5. It's not divisible by 3. My next guess was 7. So some of these you just kind of gotta guess and check where to start. All right, I've got one group of 5s. So I'm going to leave this negative 6 out there. I've got a group of 5 that I'm going to bring to the outside. I'm left with a 7 on the inside. And I've got a to the 6, which means I have 2 groups of 3. So I have 2 groups that I'm going to bring out, and there's none left over. Now when we're simplifying, I'm simply just going to multiply the negative 6 times 5. So I've got a negative 30 a squared, and I'm left with the third root of 7. All right, number 10, again, I've got a 2. I'm going to leave that on the outside. I'm going to kind of ignore that for right now. We'll bring it back at the end. All right, 384, it's even. It has to be divisible by 2. So I type that into the calculator. I get 2 and 192. Again, even, has to be divisible by 2. Ends up being 96. 96 is again even, just 2 and 48. 2 and 24. We've got 2 and 12, and 2 and 6, and finally 2 and 3. All right, my index on this one is 7, so I need groups of 7. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 2s. So there's one group. So I'm going to bring back my 2 that I started with, bring out another group of 2. I am left with a 3 on the inside, and I've got b to the 6. So I don't have any groups of 7, so the b's are going to stay on the inside. Also notice my the 384 is negative on the inside, so I'm going to pull out that negative because I have an odd index. I can just bring out one negative. So this ends up being negative 4 times the 7th root of 3b to the 6. And that is a simplified form.